Welcome. Today I'm going to look at Harpidae, including the Morums and the Austroharps, and also look at Ficidae. So let's have a look at some specific species. So in the Indo-Pacific, probably the most common and well-known species are Amaretta, Harpa, Articularis, Dividus, and Major. So we'll look at those, and we'll also look at some other species as well. Here we have within shot there is my range of Amaretta, and they range from places like Australia, New Guinea, Vanuatu, Mozambique, Tanzania. Wide range of locations, and interesting how varied that species is. One of my favourites is that one there, which I'm calling Form crassa from Queensland. Lovely shell that. If we look at some other ones, lovely red form there. Harpa. And my largest specimen is 122 millimeters, that's Harpa Major. So some quite large shells there, quite a few, about half a dozen are at least 10 centimeters or slightly over, with that one, as I said, being the largest, although not necessarily the broadest. That one seems like a broader shell, but it is shorter. That one's about just over 110 millimeters. All right, a couple of other interesting species. Of course, the most coveted shell is that of Costata from Mauritius. Beautiful shell that. And then we've got Harpidae from my specimens. There's two there and two there. And they're from Tanzania, Mozambique, and Madagascar. Over here we've got Cronata from Panama. There's 4 specimens in shot there. And my favourite one there would have to be that one with the more grey colours and the very uniform pattern. So lovely shell that. Then we've also got Taurus, and that's from Senegal with the lovely red markings there. And just a couple of others I want to point out from, look in that corner here, a couple of shells from Bonaparte Gulf in the Northern Territory. I'm not quite sure what name I should give those. I'm wondering whether it should be Kajiyame, and there's a couple of specimens from the Philippines there. And the markings on the back, the blotch on the back is very similar with those shells. So I suspect that should be the name I give the Bonaparte Gulf shells. But here's a very interesting one from Irian Jaya, almost yellow. I put on the blue foam there to sort of indicate that it is indeed a yellow shell. And that one's also from Irian Jaya, so very interesting shell, that one. All right, and there's some more from Bonaparte Gulf. Beautiful. Group of shells, the Harpas. All right, let's now go on and have a look at the Morums and the Austroharpas. I'll start with the Austroharpas. So there we have Punctata. There we have the beautiful Loisae. That have to be my favorite. Such beautiful sculpture and beautiful brown and pink coloring. Exquisita. Those 2 specimens there. And that one there next to it I'm calling Wilsoni, because similar to Punctata but smaller, and it's got definitely the yellow colouring, although most specimens I've seen are brighter yellow than that. But that is a dead collected shell, so I'm still calling it Wilsoni. And then Kendricki, some fossil specimens. But you can definitely see the sculpture on that and how similar it is to other Austroharps. Now we'll have a look at the Morums, and there's a lot of very rare species here, a number of which I don't have in my collection, but obviously I'll just focus on what I do have. So Grande from Fraser Island there. There's a few specimens from Taiwan. Beautiful specimen of Denisoni there. It's a beautiful specimen, and that's from Puerto Rico, and that's 61 millimeters. And there's another smaller specimen there, Matthew Sy. Teramachi, I think that's what that one's called. Yes, Teramachi. So 2 Teramachis there. That one and that one. Watanabe, I'm calling that. Joel Green Eye. Cancellatum. This one, sorry, Oniscus. And then Tuberculosa from Panama. All right. And now we'll finish with Fickidae. And here we've got species of Gracillus, which is this large one here. So Gracillus, and there's quite a few in here, a couple here as well. My largest one is just over 160 millimeters. That specimen there. Interesting how broad they get when they're large, and then you've got the thinner specimens there, but perhaps they broaden out when they do get larger. We've also got Subintermedia. That's a common one throughout Australia. A lot of Subintermedias down there, and they're from places like Irian-Jaya, Flores, Northern Territory, Western Australia. So a wide range there, and quite variable. Also, there's Pellucida, also known as howleye, quite a rare shell, I believe. And there's a number of different names for this shell. And Atlanticus howleye. I've been told the howleye is possibly the male form of Pellucida. I'm not sure about that, only having one specimen, of course. I haven't got other ones to compare it to. All right, another beautiful one is Variegata. Specimens there. And Ventricosa is a beautiful shell from Mexico. There they are there, very distinct with that ribbing. And then we have Filosa, quite a few specimens there from across Northern Australia. Nice group there, and a couple of interesting ones there with beautiful markings on that pair there, which are also from Northern Territory. Investigatorus there, lovely specimen from India. And that one is 132 millimeters, if I'm reading my label correctly. Very distinct shape, which certainly separates it from Gracillus. And then we have Eospilla. It's an interesting group down here. So all of these shells are from Western Australia, and that's from Carnarvon, and they're from Western Australia. There's the Eospilla. That's an interesting one there. That was also found in Bruno amongst Eospilla, but lacking any of the dots. So I'm still putting that in that group there. So yeah, just some very interesting shells there. And then, as far as my locate Darwin, they're the only ones I have found in Darwin Harbour in over 40 years. Those two broken, that fragment there. So both I think are sub-intermedia, and then the very small shell there. That's all I found. Whereas I go to locations, other locations in the NT, like Nullumboy, of which a number of those are from Nullumboy. All right, and then this one here, going to Coburg Peninsula in the Northern Territory. Obviously intermedia again, but they're the only shells I found there of Ficus, which actually is better than Harpa. In Darwin, I have never found a Harpa shell, not even a fragment. And I just realised another species I haven't talked about, the American one, which is known as, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes, Papuratia. There's a number of subspecies. There's one, I think, quite typical form there. And then another one here with a lot more colouring. And that's being given the subspecies of Lindae. And that one is from, so opening invoke from Colombia. Beautiful specimen that. And the one underneath is from, we saw the label before, from Florida. All right, so that is my selection of Ficidae shells. There's just one there from Singapore, Variegata. All right, I hope you enjoyed that look at Ficidae. Sorry, I'll read my notes. Morum, Austroharpa and Harpa. Thank you.